In this video, I'm going to provide a Palantir week in review featuring insider selling, Ark Invest's activity, and an update on institutional ownership for PLTR. Let's go. PLTR stock has declined in 11 of the past 12 trading days, just recently closing out the biggest one-week sell-off in Palantir's history. The market conditions are brutal for all stocks, yes, but PLTR also is getting weighed down on from insider selling, given the lockup period has expired following the Q4 earnings report. Insider selling. Here are some screen grabs from Nasdaq.com under the insider activity section. So here it is sorted by date, Shyam Sankar selling. All of these automatic sells are from insider selling from the lockup expiration. Number of shares traded and price there, total shares held. Really puts things in perspective. You'll see Peter Thiel offloading 20 million shares, but he does actually hold approximately 160 million shares total. So yes, quite a big sell. That is a bit of a red flag, but putting it in perspective, he still has a massive position of Palantir stock as the chairman. And just to give my thoughts on the insider selling, I think it is totally fine. It happens to any company following their IPO or direct listing. It is just part of the process. If you're an insider, if you're someone that got in at the beginning, you get liquidity eventually, and it is totally fine to take advantage of said liquidity. I think just sometimes people read way too into this in the short term, and I think as long as the insiders are not completely selling out of their entire positions, such selling really has nothing to say about the stock. Of course, because they cannot be trading from insider knowledge. But of course, the counter argument is why wouldn't they want to hold their shares if the company's stock is going to continue to appreciate? To that, I just respond, what's the problem with taking a few percent or even up to 10% off the table for liquidity in your first chance to do so after many, many years and up to decades for these people? So again, we knew this was coming. I talked about it for months, and this has been some extended selling over a considerable period of time. It was not just that one day. It's from last week into this week. But again, it is not something I'm concerned about. It is not something that should be weighing on the long term of the company. This is only something to be concerned about if you're a short-term thinker, in my opinion. So here's some more. There is some selling, and that's what everyone is reacting to, along with the shares getting dumped on the market. Ark Invest. So I also made a whole video about Ark Invest's increasing ownership of Palantir more recently. Have they been buying PLTR in the last few days? No, actually it looks like they sold a little. Is this cause for a crisis? Also no, since they've been under some serious pressure, with Ark Invest facing its largest single day withdrawal ever just a few days ago. Of course, I'd love to see them pick up some PLTR in this low 20s range, but they could just be waiting. I'll leave a pinned comment if anything changes in the near term with Ark Invest, but as of now, it does not appear that Ark is capable of backstopping PLTR such as they did with Tesla in the $620 range. Nevertheless, I've been pleasantly surprised with the increase of their holdings of Palantir over time, and I see nothing that makes me think that they are going to dump Palantir one day. So I'm not at all concerned with a lack of activity on Ark Invest's side of things, but I did want to bring that up regardless.
I mean, this stock has been on a tear, the Cathie Wood's endorsement helping it clearly, but I'm curious what you make of the Wall Street Bets attention.
Well, you know, as a venture capitalist and entrepreneur, I'm used to thinking 3 to 5 years ahead as opposed to trying to see what's going to happen a week or a few months ahead. But listen, there's a lot to be excited about with this stock. It's one of the very strongest technology cultures in the world, in a world where hard technology matters for every industry. So I think it makes sense that people are excited about it.
As a venture capital investor, are you still in this stock, and do you plan to stay in the stock? Typically, VCs are in the beginning, obviously, and then, of course, there's an exit.
Well, I own a lot of founder shares in the stock because I created the company with my roommate, with Peter's backing, and with Alex and Nathan. And, you know, I invested a lot in the company along the way more recently, and I distributed those shares to my investors, and so they get to each decide what they're going to do with them. But I'm gonna hold a lot myself for the long term. I think this is an important company for the next decade.
But I appreciate that the public market is not your market. But I am curious, as someone who's watched the Valley and who's watched valuations, what you think of this phenomenon of a sort of social media enabled investing universe to come together to talk about a stock, in certain cases to talk up a stock, and potentially in the future to talk down a stock, and how that may shift and change the way companies are valued.
I mean, technology is clearly the hero of 2020, despite everything that happened. You know, it's solving a lot of problems, and everyone's come to realize this is the area where growth is, and this is the area that is actually solving real substantive problems. I mean, Palantir's helping distribute the vaccines around the world. It's helping solve the hardest problems for a lot of big companies. So to me, it makes sense. People would be excited about it. And, you know, the question really is, what are the moats in these companies? I think technology was undervalued for quite a long time because people underappreciated those moats. And as they appreciate them and as they see places that have the very best technologists, it makes sense that there'd be a shift where a lot of these companies would be valued a lot more highly.
Right. Is this the time to be buying, or is this the time to be harvesting?
It's the time to be building, frankly. Like, this is the time to be working closely with top talent and building, because there's a lot of resources out there. And so that's what we're mostly focused on.
Institutional ownership. So how about institutional holdings? It's been a while since I went over that. Here we are again on NASDAQ.com. I last made an update on this front on November 25th of last year, and at that point, Palantir had institutional holdings of approximately 12%. So we've seen a substantial increase since that point, which is objectively great for the stock in the long run. Nearly double since late November, I might add. So all of that to say, the Palantir is really facing some maximum pain recently in the short term, along with the market going through this sudden correction. I don't give financial advice, but I hope you are making safe decisions. I bought more PLTR this week, which I am now down on, but I do not care, because those are shares I am prepared to hold for the long term. And I understand, as I hope you do, that that's the risk with any investment in the stock market. And just to provide some closing thoughts on Palantir's valuation before I close out this video, with Palantir under a $45 billion valuation, I think we are finally seeing a reversion to the mean when it comes to Palantir stock. I'll be honest, I'm not very good with technical analysis, but it does appear Palantir has hit a critical point for the stock, considering where it's been trading in the past ever since December pretty much. So again, there's really no predicting where the stock will head from here, but I am definitely comfortable adding at these levels for my portfolio in the long term, especially considering I've seen no negative material change in the capability of Palantir's execution even in these last few days or weeks. I think they had a pretty solid Q4 earnings report, and it's been mainly downhill because of the sell-off from that, the insider lockup expiration, and the market really getting destroyed in the past week. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Palantir stock movement. Of course, this is pretty terrible to see for any Palantir investor. I understand that, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Was this to be expected? Is Palantir going under $20? Or have we reached the max fear, and will the market start heading up again next week? Until next time.